You're listening to the Sisters-in-Law podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women who replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women, according to the NIH and CDC. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee, and you will hear me interview sisters-in-law who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Now let's get started. Welcome. All December long, we will be featuring some of our favorite episodes around different topics. You're listening to the Sisters-in-Law podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. July is Fibroids Awareness Month, and over 90% of Black women are affected by fibroids by the age of 50. Welcome to episode 55 of the Sisters-in-Law podcast. In today's episode, we have fibroids activist and health coach Gessie Thompson, who shares her uterine fibroid journey and eliminating fibroids through diet and detox. Gessie Thompson is one of the 90% of Black women affected by fibroids by age 50. She personally battled the epidemic for 14 years and the resulting infertility for 10 of those years to have her miracle baby Nia. Her grueling journey included 10 surgeries, 5 IVF cycles, and a devastating miscarriage, and even her heart stopping on the delivery table. In this episode, Gessie takes us back on her healing journey, spiritually and physically. We both share how our hysterectomies led to us eating a plant-based diet and lifestyle, and how she is helping other women eliminate estrogen dominance and inflammation through her DetoxNow and Fibroid Elimination programs. Here is Gessie Thompson. Thank you so much, Gessie, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Erica.
Well, for the listeners who may not know you, can you share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So I am a health coach focusing on fibroids, infertility, and specifically helping people to cure and prevent inflammatory conditions that also include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, infertility, endometriosis, and more. And I'm also an author of what I call my second baby, the book Hope Beyond Fibroids, Stories of Miracle Babies and the Journey to Motherhood. And I'm a fibroids activist. And I say activist because too many women, more than 35 million women in the United States alone. And I like to say that I'm one of the 90% of, Black women suffering from fibroids by age 50 who are affected by fibroids by age 50. And that's millions of women suffering in silence. And there aren't a lot of, there's not a lot of research and support services specifically to help not only to educate them around the cause, how it develops, what changes they can make, and then also how they can prevent them prevent developing these kind of conditions. So I think that breaks it down. Health coach, author, fibroids activist, and also the co-founder of the Hope Beyond Fibroid Elimination program and the Detox. And this is aside from mommy to miracle baby Nia Thompson, who changed my life.
Yeah.
And, wife to Mark Thompson, who just is the stabilizer of our family, and so much more, of course. I'm my sister's keeper.
Awesome. So tell us about your journey to motherhood, and how did you find out that you had fibroids?
Yeah, so it's interesting because fibroids and my journey of motherhood were literally intertwined. I am a planner, and my husband and I, we got married. I was age 26. And when I say I'm a planner, I was like, okay, so, we're going to enjoy being married. We're going to do things that really transition us into really being a happy married couple. And then we'll start expanding our family with children, right? So I had a timeline, thought, okay, age 30 comes along, and I'm like, this is a good time. We feel great together. It was a great time to expand our family. We start trying to conceive after I turned 30, and 6 months down the road, we're not pregnant. We have not conceived, and I'm starting to get suspicious. I haven't been on any kind of contraceptive. We are, frequently doing the things required to have a child, and we're still not conceiving. So it prompted me to go to my GYN. Typically the official language is that you're not infertile unless you've been trying for a year, but all GYNs will tell you, listen, don't wait till that time. 6 months at least. Check to see if something may be up, something may be playing a role. And I did that and found out, she said, something's going on. I think you may have fibroids. I was like, what? I may have what? So I found out I had fibroids. She sent me for further testing. She sent me for ultrasound, and they confirmed, because she did a pelvic exam, and she said, your uterus is bulky. Something's going on. And I had no other symptoms at this time other than I did have a little bit of a protruding belly starting to develop, but I was always what you call skinny fat, Erica. You eat and eat and eat, but you didn't gain weight. So my family would always tell me, when you turn 30, your metabolism is going to change. Oh, wait till you turn 30. I can't wait till you turn 30. All that stuff you eat is going to land right on your hips and your tummy. So I was thinking my metabolism is just starting to slow down, right? So I'm starting to develop a little bit of a pooch. But it turns out my uterus was becoming distended, because I now had developed fibroids, right? So my main symptom was infertility. This began what would be a 14-year battle with fibroids, 10 years battling infertility, and in that, there were 10 surgeries, 5 of them being for fibroids, 5 of them being from complications from those fibroid surgeries, as well as 5 IVF cycles. All right. 5, can we say cha-ching? 5 IVF cycles. And more than 120 plus days combined in the hospital of, between many times having to go to the hospital, as well as from the surgery recoveries, and a devastating miscarriage from our first IVF cycle. Now we conceived we conceived after our 5th IVF cycle, we conceived, and our pregnancy is going right along nicely. I'm thinking, okay, I'm high risk because of all the surgeries. At that point, I'd had 6 surgeries, and so they're monitoring me closely. At 21 weeks, the doctors are whispering, Erica, and they're saying, wait a minute, I can see them at the regular visit. Something's going on. They call me into the office. What happens when they call you? It's like being called to the principal's office. You're like, what's wrong? He proceeds to tell me, Dr. Rochilson, great doctor, he proceeds to tell me that I've developed something called fetal growth restriction, where the fibroids had returned after my last fibroid surgery. They returned, and now we're siphoning off the blood supply to my child. Okay, so my child is now not growing, and they're telling me how my uterus is about to become a hostile environment, and I might want to consider terminating a pregnancy that took 10 years to achieve. Okay, Erica, I want you to think with me think with me. Go there with me. 10 years it took to get this pregnancy. But that faith rose up in me, Erica. And I said, oh no, we are miracle believing people. We believe in miracles. We are people of faith. I said, so no, there will be no abortion. There will be no termination of this pregnancy. I was blessed that the doctor said, okay, I've been doing this long enough to know that there are things that medicine cannot explain. Buckle up your seatbelt and let's go along for the ride, right? So I told him that day, that answer kept him his job. We'd laugh about it, because I said, if you had said anything else, I would have been like, nice to see you, go on and find somebody else.
Right.
Journey with me, right?
Right.
5 weeks later, the condition worsen.
Wow.
Okay. So now, again, the blood flow is being pulled away from my child. So they admit me to the hospital and they tell me that they're expecting I'm going to deliver in no more than 72 hours, meaning that when the condition worsens to this point, that you have 72 hours and they want to keep the baby in the womb as long as possible, right? In order for the baby to grow and be as healthy as possible. So, long story short, that 72 hours came and went because we had prayer warriors all over the world standing and believing. I said, that baby is not coming until it's time. God had given me a vision of healthy baby, healthy mommy. So both of us were alive, right? Both of us were alive, no matter how many rushes to labor and delivery we had. And at 32 weeks, the doctor said, let's schedule a C-section because now the baby's ready and we don't want to have an emergency situation. So we go in September 8th, 2011, and we thought everything was clear. But we had one more test where my heart stopped on the operating table. And because of all the scar tissue, we were just talking about scar tissue, all of the scar tissue all over my bowels, because I had so many surgeries because of adhesions and obstruction that developed from the scar tissue from the fibroid surgeries. And it took them more than an hour just to get to her. And because of that, with all of the manipulating of my bowels, that's where my heart stopped. So thank God, it didn't last. We got my husband out of there. He freaked out. He didn't know what was going on. All he knew is they said, Mr. Thompson, you have a girl. And he took the boy. And I just knew, I didn't even know what I had because they put me under, because I was under, a C-section. But they put me under and they completely, continued the surgery at that point. And I had my miracle baby, Mia Madison Thompson, our princess warrior. Her name means purposeful warrior, and she was born 2.5 pounds and 14 inches. I say that the day that I birthed her, she birthed me into my mission and my work as a fibroids and fertility activist, health coach, the author, all the things that I get to do now. I never knew that this was going to be a part of what God was calling me to. I thought my test was just for me, but it turns out he was going to use it as a testimony to heal the nations.
Awesome. And like we were talking about before I started pressing record, is that our stories are very similar. And I don't think I've shared on the podcast about my journey after my emergency hysterectomy with my rainbow baby, Emmanuel. God was with him in that surgery room and with me. But I had hormonal issues as well after my hysterectomy, and it's what led me to becoming vegan. And then I found Dr. Sebi, and then I saw you all on the Breakfast Club back when you first went up there in January, February of this year, and you all talked about November. Oh, maybe it was the November of last year. And you all been up there a couple different times talking about your programs. Yeah, about your programs and helping those guys and just really educating the population about what it really means to eliminate inflammation from your body. So let's talk about just the healing that you had to do spiritually, and then the healing that you had to do with your body as well, to heal your body after you had the hysterectomy, after all the fibroids were gone, and just talk us through that.
Yes. One of the things that I was clear on is healing is spirit, soul, and body, right? We know that what the mind can't contain, it passes off on the body. And we know, like, for instance, what led up to the hysterectomy was I had one of my most stressful years ever in 2014. And it's interesting because at the same time, while I was going through a lot of stressors in my family life, I was also, quote unquote, on top of the world. My story came out in Essence, which was a very watershed moment because they profiled my story, and that really, it went viral with women all over the world just responding and saying, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing your story. Your story has given me hope. And it really alerted me to the fact that it made me aware of how many women are suffering, right? And I realized, as I was going through, actually, that the stressors that year, fibroids had come back and they tripled in size, Erica. Wow. Okay? Now, nothing else had changed. My diet hadn't changed, okay? My work life, nothing. It was literally stress. And that's why we specifically talk about how these, number one, how the root cause of these issues is estrogen dominance, which is triggered by stress, diet, and pollutants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I didn't know any of this at the time. All I knew is that the fibroids tripled in size. The doctors said unilaterally I needed to have a hysterectomy. And at the same time, a small bowel resection because I had developed scarring and ulcerated tissue around where they had cut me before, where I was bleeding internally. This is why I say to people, once you've been cut, there's so many things that opens you up to. Okay, so like we were talking about, I'm not willingly just going to have somebody cut me open major surgery,
right,
without it being a life or death situation.
Exactly.
There's so many things that you can't plan for. There's so many complications that can just happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so for me, even though they left my ovaries, here I was, I had a double major surgery. They left my ovaries, but yet and still I found myself in full-blown menopause. Now, you can imagine, I was furthest thing from a naturalista, Erica. I mean,
right.
I have 5 IVF cycles. So in other words, if you said healing, that meant traditional medicine, right? Other than, of course, I'm a praying woman. I believe in miracles. I believe in God healing the body outside of and without the permission of doctors. Okay? No question. But I also know that healing is God's idea. Right. Medicine is God's idea. But how that medicine happens, where we get that medicine from, it's interesting because there's so many things that have happened in this pharmaceutical and traditional medicine world. And like I said, was very much a traditional medicine girl. And I remember, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, where I had gotten to the point, Erica, where now, after the hysterectomy, I'm in full-blown menopause, even though they left my ovaries. Now, for my sisters who know what I'm talking about, we're talking about not just severe hot flashes, and those literally feel like you're having fire burning up in your body, but then also I've had such severe pain during intercourse because my body wasn't creating its own. I'll just say like I said it on the Breakfast Club, it was like the Sahara Desert. Nothing in the world. I don't care. Nothing have made that thing work. You get what I'm saying? Right. At 44 years old, I don't know about you, Erica, but I got a lot of living to do. Oh, yeah. And a healthy sex life is a very important part of that. You know what I mean? So that's God made it. It's God's idea. It's a beautiful thing between a husband and wife, as He designed it, and as I desire to live by it that way. Then yes, sir, I expect to receive and live in what God has given us. Right. So here I am thinking, okay, you know what? I went to GYN. He's like, all right, I'm going to put you on this estrogen patch. And, I have a praying mother and a praying grandmother, Erica. And they were like, listen, I know what they're telling you to do, but there's too much information and research out there linking those hormone replacement drugs to ovarian cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer. And I knew enough to know, Erica, I wasn't going to be going from fighting fibroids to cancer. Nope. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna pick my battle, and that is not one of them. So while I said, okay, Mom, listen, I'll look for something natural. But right now, I just need some relief. I said, I'm going to do the patch until I find something natural. But you know what happens? You get a little comfortable. I get a little bit of masking, a little bit of relief, and you get comfortable and don't do what you said you were going to do. Well, I remember sitting in my office one day. I was sitting there, and I had started coaching women around the spiritual and the emotional issues that you navigate dealing with fibroids and infertility, right? I remember I was sitting in my office, and God said, take it off now. And I knew enough to know that meant rip that little Band-Aid off. I took it off quickly, and I said, okay, God, I'm open. Okay, yes, show me the way. Within 2 weeks, I was connected to these doctors, Dr. Amun and Dr. Amsu, who are the founders of Electric Health. And I didn't even know not one of their names. I went to the website. I was leading a prayer group at the time, and women in the prayer group were saying, I'm doing this meal guide, and it's working. I'm starting to see results. I said, really? Like I said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I was like, really? Tell me more about that. Right? And it turns out they were all talking about the same people. So I said, okay, God, I'm paying attention. Fine. I was mad, too. I was like, okay, all right, I'll listen. Because I was like, this ain't real medicine. You know what I mean? Now what? Herbs? What? I gotta go get some pills or some, that's what I knew of, right? So I I went to their website. I just clicked the contact button. I didn't even have a reference. Somebody connected you with somebody, or I didn't have nothing. I just went to the contact button. So it does work. I hit the contact button, and sure enough, within a week or 2 weeks' time, we were in communication. And as we started talking, they said they started breaking down how estrogen dominance is the root cause of these inflammatory conditions, such as, fibroids, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and all the bells and the whistles and the lights started going off. Because at this point, I'm a fibroids activist. I'm doing these seminars and panels alongside GYN, and they kept saying the same thing, Erica. They kept saying, we don't know what causes them, but we know that estrogen causes them to grow. We don't know what causes them, but we do know that when the estrogen levels in the body are reduced, that they go away. So it started to say, well, wow, it's like saying we know what's wet, but we don't know, what makes it wet. If water's present, it's wet, but we don't know what makes it wet. You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a minute.
Right.
And then the 2 plus 2 started to add up, because I started realizing, wait a minute, I know why they won't talk about estrogen being the root cause. Because there's a $1 billion industry called birth control pills.
Yep.
There's a $1 billion industry called repeat surgeries that would not be needed if you prevented these conditions, because you knew what to do. You were empowered with the information on how to eliminate estrogen out of your lifestyle, right?
Right.
There's a $1 billion industry in hormone replacement drugs for people who go after menopause, right? So understand, now the dollars started to adding up, and it started to say, okay, now I know what's behind this. Now I know what's going on. So, because then we said, you know what, let's merge our program. I'm dealing with the spiritual and the emotional healing. You guys are dealing with the physiological healing. But people need both in order to actually experience real total healing, right? Mm-hmm. They need to deal with the traumas. They need to deal with the emotional pains. They need to deal with the mindsets, right? Mm-hmm. They need to deal with the grief. They need to deal with the disappointment. They need to deal with the improper boundaries, seeking people's approval, the things that prohibit them from saying no to having healthy boundaries, all of these spiritual and emotional things, right? In order to be able to choose to take care of themselves, choose the narrow road of healing, right? So then I said, before we merge our programs, I need to know what works for myself, because here I am, I'm struggling with my own estrogen dominant issue, right? Because I'm dealing with full-blown menopause. So I started a program, what we now designed as a combined program, and within about 3 to 4 weeks, I started seeing changes in my body. I was like, oh my God, this is real. Like, I started seeing, okay, now, so wait a minute. I'm no longer having flashes. I'm able to enjoy being with my husband. I'm no longer having pain, right? And then there are some women who are dealing with depression. There are women who are dealing with psychotic episodes because of the hormonal imbalances, okay? There are women who are dealing with constant pain, and they thought it was going to go away when they had the hysterectomy, but it's become worse, right? Yeah. And so I started to say, okay, now I see that it works. And that's when we launched it together in January of 2016. We merged our programs and did a joint launch, a joint effort, and co-founded the Hope Beyond Fibroid Elimination program. And right away, so many women who were like, I can't have another surgery. Right. I am just done, So, but before I go into that, I wanted to talk about the emotional and the spiritual pain. A miscarriage. When we had that first pregnancy, which turned into a miscarriage, you and I both know that the only way I can explain that pain, Erica, is like somebody literally shattered me into a million pieces. Yeah. I looked in the mirror and I couldn't see myself. I felt like the pain was so debilitating. All I could say was, God, help me. I mean, like, the grieving through, it was just, I'm a bubbly personality. I am a very happy and joyful person, but it was like literally all of it was sucked out of me. And all I knew was that God is still good, and this was not the end of my story. And I knew I had to get to the point where I could feel it, Now, I remember where, as I tell people, don't rush the process. Healing requires you actually feel your feelings. Don't suppress them. It requires you actually acknowledge and allow yourself to process process them. Allow yourself to grieve it, because if not, you're going to stuff it down. That trauma is going to impact your body. That trauma is going to pump your body with cortisol that's now going to cause the inflammation that leads to tumor and other kind of condition, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then not acknowledging that pain, not facing it, not giving yourself that space, whether it be the loss of a child or stillbirth, it could be divorce that came from that horrific experience, to miscarriage. Whatever your pain has been, I want to encourage you that, people say, I don't want to start crying because I won't stop. Well, you know what? Your child is worth those tears. Your pain is worth the tears. And you need to release it as part of your healing process. You need to acknowledge that you lost something that devastated you. You need to acknowledge and give yourself the space and the time and the community, because there are people who you're not going to feel comfortable talking about it when you hurt all the time. And you're going to tell yourself, oh, they're going through something. They don't want to hear my pain. And some of the people will be there for you, and they'll keep telling you that they're for you, and let them be there for you. But then there will be people who move on. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about the people who move. They're not called to walk with you in the process. Find the community of people, whether it's a support group. That's why in our coaching program, with the Hope Beyond Fibroids Elimination program, we deal with the pain. We go through, what are those triggers? What are those things that you've been holding on to? Where did the clock stop? Mm-hmm. Where did the clock stop? Where did you lose hope? Where did you lose hope? Where was your hope shattered? Because these are the places that disease entered your spirit, your mind, and then infiltrated and took over your body.
Wow. So let's talk about the DetoxNow and the Hope Beyond Fibroids program, and really just tell us a little bit more about the program, and then one thing that we could do, that listeners could do today to help eliminate inflammation in their body.
Sure. Okay. So the first thing is, when we formed the Hope Beyond Fibroids Elimination program, it was, number one, to address those three triggers, the three ways estrogen dominance, because what we deal with is the root cause. Because you have surgery, it's not going to deal with the root cause. Fibroids are the symptom. Endometriosis is the symptom. It's wreaking havoc in your life, but it's the symptom. It comes from the root condition, which is the estrogen dominance. Okay. And that's why, for me, I had 5 fibroid surgeries. They kept coming back. For some women, they'll have the fibroid surgery once, but then they develop endometriosis after. Maybe it didn't come back as fibroids. Maybe it came back as weight you can't get rid of. Maybe it came back as cysts. Maybe it came back as your thyroid is off now. There's some sort of hormonal endocrine disruption. And it's because the root cause is still present in your body. So when you're dealing with the symptoms, what happens when you hack away at the leaves, Erica? Yeah. The tree's still rooted. It's still rooted there. The disease is still rooted in your body, right? And it's just going to find other ways to manifest. It's not the same way and greater. Every time the fibroids came back, they came back more aggressive, more symptomatic in my life personally, right? Mm-hmm. And so understanding that the 3 triggers, and I want to stop to say, we literally have a free teleseminar, and our goal is to educate on the root conditions of estrogen dominance, how it develops in your body, the linkages between estrogen and cancer, and the difference between estrogen and progesterone, our true female hormone, and estrogen and testosterone, the true male hormone. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I want everybody to please listen to the free teleseminar we have. It is literally, they're like, man, this thing is so potent. You guys should charge for it. But we're like, no. One of the greatest things we want to do is educate you, okay, to become your own expert of your health, to become your first advocate. Okay. So you can download that free at detoxnow.com/gift. Okay. Now, to break that down further, so estrogen dominance, it develops in your body through 3 ways: stress, the cortisol levels that are pumping your body. That's one of the entries. And stress is not just fear and anxiety. The cortisol pumps our body through pressure. People who have high pressure lives, they're always on the go. There's no margin in their lives. They don't know how to say no. They're the perfectionists. These are all ways that pressure is actually pumping your body with cortisol, right? Then that's a heavy toxin. Then there's also your diet. Your diet is a major source of estrogen in your life because most of the foods that we eat are estrogenic. Okay? And that's from, everything from animals to plants. And because we don't have a lot of information, because we haven't been taught. So that's part of why we want to educate around stress, diet, and pollutants. Pollutants are everything from, the beauty products that we use, the plastics that we put our food in, the air that we breathe, the hair products that we use, the toothpaste. It's in so many things. And what we educate people to do is to eliminate the estrogen. And the way we structured the Hope Beyond Fibroids Elimination program to where we've had testimonies to, like you saw the testimony, Annalise's testimony.
Right.
She eliminated, Annalise Henry eliminated 50 fibroids on our program. 50.
Wow.
And we had our MRI documented report with us at the studio the other day when we were there. And you can listen to her full testimony right at the DetoxNow.com, the testimonials tab. Okay. So you can hear, because she goes in great length, great detail. You could also see her interview there as well. But the key thing is that the way the program is structured is through coaching, nutrition planning, herbal supplements, and daily practices. So it's very holistic, right? Because through the coaching, we teach you how to rewire the way you process stress. We provide the community, the accountability, and the support to create a sustainable lifestyle of healing. We teach you how to use your food as your medicine. Because what we are eating is either healing or hurting us. There's no way around it, Erica, right? It's healing or hurting us. This is the good news. We get to choose what we put in our mouths. We choose it all the time. If we don't have information about what is anti-inflammatory, what is inflammatory, what foods are electric, what foods are estrogenic, we won't make the best decisions for our bodies. So that's why the second part of the program is, again, the coaching, the nutrition plan that provides meal plans, information, constant resources. And then there's the daily practices, right? And the herbal supplements. So the herbal supplements they provide the gap in the minerals so that your body can actually eradicate the estrogen dominance, right? So it helps to actually cure the estrogen dominance, the root cause in your body, so that your body now starts to starve the fibroids, starve the endometriosis, right? Bring the balance in your body so it actually disrupts infertility. We had one sister who was unable to conceive. Her name is Danielle. She was unable to conceive for 12 years.
Wow.
She and her husband never able to conceive for 12 years. And she gave birth to Monet. Monet is now going on 2 years old, and they're expecting a second child.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing.
That's amazing,
right?
Yeah.
Amazing. And the thing about it is that the body knows how to heal itself, Erica, right? The body is designed to heal itself. So what we're helping you do is to become the hero in the story of your healing and stop being the accomplice in the story of your disease. Because that's what we have been. We've been that, but we didn't know better.
We didn't know.
So there's the coaching, the nutrition plan, the herbal supplements, and the last thing is the daily practices. So that's everything from water therapy to the daily sunlight that you need, vitamin D hormone development, to, the intake of the proper sleep protocols, just daily practices that help to support the healing process. I like to actually use the analogy of a kitchen sink, okay? It kind of brings it together. And think about your body as the kitchen sink. And, the water, the faucet is on high, and the drain is clogged. What happens over time? The water starts to bubble up and floods over and starts to cause damage to your cabinets, to your floors, right? And the estrogen dominance has done that. It has bubbled up to the point where now you've developed fibroids, you're symptomatic, all this damage is being done to your body. Right? And again, whether it could be endometriosis, put in the inflammatory condition, and it's the same thing. Okay? Now, the very first thing we do through the coaching and the nutrition plan is, number one, reduce the stressors. right? Teach you to rewire the way you process stress, teach you to start to value yourself, make room for, prioritize your health, teach you how to now, again, be focused on you and saying yes to you and no to others, to the things that are not part of your assignment. We like to say that saying no may make you sad, but it doesn't make me bad. Many times people feel like if I say no to you, it's going to make me bad. If I say yes to you, I am saying no to me. I'm saying no to me being healthy. And that's a big thing people have to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So again, through the coaching and then also through the nutrition plan, you turn that faucet off. You're not eating steadily flooding your body with the estrogen, right? So turn the faucet off. But the sink is still full because guess what? You still have the estrogen dominance, right? Mm-hmm. Because the drain is still clogged. So that's where the supplements come in, because their job is to clean out the drainage system, clean out the piping. So because look at it, we have the supplements that help to optimize the function of your liver. That's the Rigid Ease. The supplements that help to optimize the function of your lymphatic system. That's the Phoenix. The supplements that help to optimize, to inhibit the estrogen, the essence of fertility, all the 3 core components of the program. And that is helps to unclog the drain so that now your excretory system is able to allow the removal and elimination of toxins, the replenishment of good, healthy tissue so that your body's elimination system works properly. Mm-hmm. And then daily practices help support the overall body's ability to heal itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me, for sure. And if our guests have any questions, you all can go to their website, and I'll make sure I link everything that she mentioned in the description box or in our show notes so that you all can definitely go and look at the free webinar because it's excellent. Yes. It's excellent.
Yes. Listen, I am very active on Instagram, Coach Gessie, Coach Gessie, and subscribe. We just launched our podcast, so we're making podcast, Detox Living. We just launched it right at the DetoxNow.com. Yes. And we're focused on giving you tips, tools. It's free. Tips, tools, and testimonials to power your electric living.
Oh, yes. And I'll make sure I link that as well.
One thing I wanted to say, the reason we launched the Detox is because we saw so many people starting to now, and their family members and them, they're no longer taking blood pressure meds. They're no longer on cholesterol meds. Stop taking diabetes. I mean, like, they're seeing, wait a minute, this is not even about fibroids. One of our Hope sisters, her mom did the detox with her just to support her. And she went to her regular exam, and they were like, I don't know what you're doing, but what's going on? Your cholesterol is normal. And she had been on cholesterol meds for years.
Wow.
She also had a hernia that they had been watching, but it completely disappeared. And her mother was like, oh my God, what? She was stunned because she was doing it just to support her. Mm-hmm. But here it is. We were like, see, what happens is when you allow the body to do its job, these are the things that happen. And we were having so much success between the husbands and the wives and the cousins. And we're like, okay, we need to create something just for them because they're not trying to get rid of fibroids. Mm-hmm. And that's what birthed the detox.
Mm-hmm. So lastly, before I let you go, what encouraging words can you leave the mom or the listener that's listening that's been dealing with fibroids and has not yet to get pregnant?
Well, the number one thing is that, so there's 2 parts. One is, I love that you want to be a mom, and I believe with you, and I'm standing with you, and I will walk this journey with you because you are not alone, okay? But I want you to first take the steps necessary to take care of and heal your body. I want you to learn what you need to do to take care of healing your heart and your mind, because I know you're hurting and I know it's affecting your body. I know it's affecting your heart and your mind. And I want you to know that there is hope beyond fibroids. There are stories of miracle babies that have literally flooded this world. There are 14 in my book alone. But I want you to know that there's a community here for you. We're here for you. We have information for you to help educate you. It's time to put yourself on the top of your list. And I start with that instead of, change, do this, eat this, drink this once a day, because the truth is none of that is sustainable until you make the first decision, which is my health matters and I'm choosing my health first. And I want to go one step further and let you know that That's an act of worship. For my sisters, my believers out there, taking care of your body is an act of worship. Yeah, taking care of your body is a temple of the living God. And when we honor the temple that God gave us, we are engaged in an act of worship. So I know we like to worship with music and we like to worship with our hands, but we need to worship with our lifestyle and our self-care. It's self-care, because part of that healing journey is quieting your heart and mind to actually receive God's grace for the process. Okay?
That is a major part, and thank you for sharing that. So where can we find you again on Instagram, and then where is your website for the listeners?
Okay, yes. So Coach, Gessie, Coach Gessie. I have to spell out the Gessie because y'all might spell it with a J, and it's not with a J on Instagram, and I'm most active there. You'll find me on Facebook at Gessie Thompson, GessiethomPson. So, but everything's linked right at thedetoxnow.com. Everything from my personal page is on there to the Hope Beyond, everything. So really, I just point everybody to the DetoxNow.com, because whether you're battling with fibroids, infertility, high blood pressure, whatever it may be, whatever the inflammatory condition is, we're here to help you cure and prevent those conditions. And please, please, please subscribe to our podcast.
Yes. And I'll make sure I link the podcast down. You all go give her podcast a listen. Thank you so much, Gessie, for being on the podcast and sharing your story, as well as your Hope Beyond Fibroids Elimination program.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And thank you so much for caring enough to turn your pain into power.
Thank you.
It took work for you to do that.
Oh, yes, it definitely did.
Thank you for pressing on and not allowing your pain to cripple you, but allowing it to become a platform for your ministry.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com. To stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community and receive my weekly newsletter, please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.